Greetings, thank you for joining me today. Another one for the Brush Bicycle Motor project. This is going to be, I think, my last video. Famous last words, I know, but this is my plan. So, as you saw last time, I managed to create the battery box, thus, which contains the 3 batteries you've seen before, and it's got 2 poles on the side. One is positive, one is negative, and this is designed to allow me to create a battery connector to go with it to reduce the risk of me getting the wires the wrong way round and burning the circuit, because that won't do, will it? I mean, they're cheap as chips, those motor controllers, but you don't want to burn them out unnecessarily, or cause a fire, for more to the point. So, did that. Now, you see I've got these nuts here. Those I think are better as the wing nuts, really, because obviously you're going to be taking them off and putting them on in the field, so to speak, in the car park or wherever it happens to be. Not the easiest of things to manipulate on a cold day with cold fingers, but all the same, it is what it is. With this, you aim to minimise the time that you're on the road in the cold, if that's the travelling conditions. Okay. So I've been working on a battery connector, and let me turn the camera around and show you what I've done. So first things first, got 2 sides now which are screwed in place here and at the front. They're designed to allow water to sluice off and drain out the bottom, and I'm going to put some silicone sealant here and here eventually, which will help seal out the water even better. Water will always make its way through. You've just got to minimise it if you can, or completely encapsulate things. But this is a prototype, so it'll do. These sides also make sure the whole structure is stronger, and it can now support the weight of the battery box, which is great. I just ratchet strap it down. It's a bit ghetto, but it is what it is, isn't it? And it's only provisional because I'm going to create another bracket that goes over the top, over about there, and that will hold the battery box nice and straight instead of being a slope here instead. Hopefully that will work well. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so on to the meat of it. My goodness, it's ever messy in this room today. There's more projects going on than you can possibly shake a stick at in this house. Okay, so this is the device I created with a 3D printer pen to allow me to fix the battery connections quickly without screwing it up. So, as you can tell, it's made in several stages. Freehand, basically I used a ruler to start off. You know my shaky hand, it's not the best at 3D printing with a printer pen at the best of times, but I think I managed to get a decent result for me. If you try it yourself, you'll probably get a much nicer result. But there we go. So, created using, a box shape. Start off with a rectangle that you create slowly in the colour of your choice, and then put it on its side, add the next side, put it on its side, add the next side, and so on until you've got part of the box, and then you do the other part with the... So now this one is, so it's got a box lid and then a base plate which holds the wires, and basically the wires get glued into place once you've soldered them to the lugs. I'm not going to show you how to do that. There's plenty of soldering videos out there that do it much more cleanly than I ever will, but this is what I've got, and of course I protected the ends with a bit of tape just to indicate the polarity as much as anything else, and also to tidy up my awful solder job. So the base plate itself has a V in it, which is to guide the wires, keep the wires separated so they don't accidentally touch and short out the battery. Don't want that. That can happen. And also keep the lugs in the correct orientation. That'll all be glued into place with hot melt glue. I then glue on the top and sit in there. I sat with this on my knee, and you can tell, can't you? I'm finished off the structure, just 3D printing onto hot melt glue, which is an experience. Yeah, but it came out okay. You can see on this side I tried to create a little wire relief thing here as well. Yeah, one of my better works with a 3D printing pen. Like I say, I've got a Tremble, so you might get a better result if you try making one yourself, or anything really. They're great fun, those 3D printing pens. And basically you just slot it on the battery, put the nuts on, secure it in place, and off you go. Easy, and with a minimised risk of getting it round the wrong way. So yeah, that's progress. Now, I took out the bicycle yesterday with things rudimentary strapped down and had quite a good result. It didn't last too long, to be fair. I got up the hill and back again, and then the chain fell off, but it showed that the thing will actually work. And it's not ever fast. I mean, you hit 20 miles an hour tops on this thing going downhill if you're lucky. But it's not about that. It's about getting low end gear, because my knees hurt on those hills. On now to getting the bicycle motor back up and running, getting that chain back on. Now, the chain can fall off for a number of reasons. So typical reasons would be a malformed chain, a malformed gear of some description, the wheel itself deforming during use. So, for example, if a couple of your spokes were to fail for whatever reason, that could be enough to allow the whole bicycle wheel to flex, and then the chain comes off far more easily. Also, sharp jolts, things not being set up properly in the first place, you name it. Many reasons for the chain to come off. Now, in my case, I was going around a traffic island, and here in the UK, you're supposed to give way to those people coming from your right. As you go on. Now, I was turning right at the island, so I was in the correct position on the road, waiting for a break in the traffic. And the break in the traffic came. Now, the traffic island I was going around is quite a busy one. People absolutely tear ass down the road that leads up to this, because they like to drive it like it's stolen around here, and often it is. So I'm on the traffic island going around, making my way gently, steadily round, and I was slightly under power as well at the time, just to try and get round more quickly. And I noticed this idiot barrelling down towards the island. No intention of stopping, but that's what a lot of people do. I thought, he's going to hit me. He's literally going to hit me. So I thought, right, give it a bit of extra welly, and so pedalled hard and applied the motor all at the same time, and I heard clunk, and I felt clunk through the frame, and I thought, I know exactly what that is. The chains come off. Now, I got lucky because I was able to continue pedalling, and that chain didn't bind with anything, because if it had bound with the motor or part of the frame, I would have locked my wheel, and I would possibly have come off the bicycle and been hit by the car. This cannot happen. You cannot allow this to happen. This is why you do test runs. Just don't. If you've just had a build like this, you don't just, I'm going to go to work, the full 18 miles to work, and hope it'll all work out fine, because a lot of the time you'll run into issues, teething troubles, things that need a tweak before you get back into the thick of it. So yeah, off it came, the chain, and I managed to limp away around the island, and mercifully didn't get hit. Well, you can tell, can't you? But yeah, quite annoying. I'm not sure why the chain came off, but I think it's purely because the bicycle wheel flexed under load. So maybe I'm going to true that wheel again a little bit. Now, let me just turn it round so you can see. Okay, so this isn't the easiest of things to see, but you've got the motor drive cog here, which should be directly in line, i.e. in a straight line with the cog on the bicycle wheel, but it isn't. The motor didn't shift because it can't shift at this point, but the bicycle wheel did shift. As I laid down torque with the pedals, it pulled the whole bicycle wheel this way and caused this cog to become unaligned with this cog, and that's where the chain fell off. Now, when the motor drive chain fell off, I did feel a change in the way the regular bicycle drive chain was interacting with the back wheel. It starts to clunk and make an awful, that sound, that feeling through the frame when you know you're going to lose the chain properly or bind the gears completely. And I was lucky to get around that island, so very lucky. The driver, in any case, just zoomed on. I don't think they even noticed I was there, or indeed any other traffic on the road. It's just all about the speed. By the way, if you're an Uber driver in Wolverhampton, slow down. There's no prizes for getting there dead. Just saying. Anyway, thought I'd take some time to show you a couple of tools I got on Temu recently, bicycle chain tools. Now, here's one which is naturally open, and here's one which is naturally closed when properly locked up. And they're there to help you hold on to the bicycle chain as you manipulate these chain links. You know the sort? Yeah. Because there's nothing so frustrating as trying to hold on to a slippery chain whilst using your needle nose pliers to pry off that little circlip. This little circlip. Now there are other methods, you know, there's the one where you twist the chain until it pops that circlip. I find they're less reliable than the other one where the circlip just clips into place and it's held down properly, you know. I'm not a fan of building a chain on the fly with the chain breaker tool because those tend to result in a weaker link. You know, once you mash that pin through the through the holes and pushed it back into place, it's never going to be as strong again. You know, you're putting a lot of force through a chain, so the stronger it is, the better it is, the more chance to be getting to your destination in one piece with clean hands. Yeah, so I can highly recommend these Temu tools because they're good and light and they keep things tidy, and who wouldn't find that useful on a dark night? It's anything you can have that speeds up your repair and gets you back on the road safely is a good thing as far as I'm concerned, because you could well find yourself on the side of a road in a tight lane and you want to be out of there quickly before someone just comes down blindly and knocks you flying. Okay, enough waffling from me. It's time to take the motor off, realign the wheel, well, see if we can realign the wheel and get things working again. Now, there are some problems. I have never been the biggest fan of these sort of cogs. Some people call them the ripper cog because in going through the spokes, because every single bolt goes through the spokes and holds it in place with these rubber washers and the metal affair. It works, but it isn't easy to get that one properly aligned on the wheel. You know, you want it to be centered nicely, otherwise you end up with a funny cam action on the wheel. It can damage the spokes because it puts an awful lot of torque straight at the weakest point of the spokes. That's the theory. And I don't like replacing spokes because it means taking this whole wheel out, taking this apart and replacing the spoke and then putting it all back together again, having relaced and retorqued every single spoke. It's no fun at all. And I'm aware that people are out there who are saying, no, relacing a wheel's great fun. I love to do it. It's a meditation. Well, you do you, honey. But for me, I like to lace the wheel, get it done, get it perfect, and then it stays that way. Or, you know, for a while at least. But I don't like to be changing spokes out every week because in the past I've ended up doing that with other setups. But, you know, a lot of torque through the back wheel, it's a recipe for problems. So you want to balance things properly. Now, I don't think it's the ripper cog that's causing the problem here. The torque on the motor is sufficient to pull this whole wheel back just a couple of millimeters, which is enough to put this out of alignment with the motor. This is unfortunate. There's no easy way to sort this one out. Not with this particular hub, because this hub has push-fit bearings, and they're cheap push-fit bearings, and I don't want to run the risk of ruining the whole hub by pushing the push-fit bearings out, because if I was able to make this spindle longer, I could then have a big washer here, and the washer would stop the wheel from moving so easily. And the same on the other side. This spindle is not quite long enough for the frame. So annoying, and that's the problem I have. Just a few millimeters, that makes all the difference. Well, I know what all you keyboard warriors are saying. You know, you're quietly shouting at your screen, but Matt, you've got to spend some money. Get yourself one of those kits to remove the bearings successfully, and you'll be able to change out that spindle on the hub and get exactly what you need. And you're right. I'm just loath to spend the £80 or so that I've seen those bearing kits go for. Still be worth it, won't it, long term? The other temptation with this particular hub is to, this is aside from the spindle issue, is to change out the gear, to get rid of the ripper gear, which is not out of alignment, but it could be, and change it out for something that generates less torque at the spokes, notably the spin-on gear that came with the flipper hub. Now, it's for those people who like the fixie wheel, turn the bike wheel around and you've got the fixie wheel, and then you turn it back again, you've got the freewheel wheel for when you've gone on road use. This is for strictly, generally speaking, off-road use if you're going to be using it as a fixie hub. Obviously, no one but a madman goes out without the ability to slow down successfully, and a fixie hub isn't going to allow you to do that. So it is useful, though, when you've got a gear set up like this, because this will work rather well with the motor. But what it will not give you is that low down torque. This would only be useful for giving me extra speed, probably illegal speed, once I've got up to speed pedalling, at a low gear. Now I can do that. I don't have a problem with this. The new setup I've got with this bike has really lovely low gears. But then I wonder, how often will I use this? Because in the Black Country, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Dudley, all those areas, you're always on a hill. You're either going up a hill or down a hill, but mostly you seem to be going up a hill. And I kind of want that motor assistance for going up the hills, because otherwise I end up at work exhausted. But still, very tempting. And of course, because this is a spin-on gear, it always stays centred, no question about it. Never an issue with that. How long it'll last, don't know. But I was tempted. It was also tempting to try and guide the chain better, which might stop it coming off to a certain extent. And you can have chain guides, there's plenty of them out there. Aftermarket chain guides are expensive, mine, but I thought I might make one of my own. I bought some. Again, you can see a nice little bearing in there. Temu, sub £2. Yeah, I know, spend a bit more, you might get a better quality. But I bought two of them because £2, this sort of thing will get me through. And experience has shown that with the mileage I put in, with the sort of repairs I do, it's not hard to just carry one of these in your repair kit just in case. But I have never, in 40 years of cycling, never seen one of these fail. I say never, but I just haven't. I mean, have you? Let me know in the comments. They get a bit gritty. They sometimes lock up, but they never properly snap. But there's some pretty things out there, aren't there? Couldn't resist. Okay, back to it. So, spindle alignment issues aside, this kit works. I can confirm that. I've been out, I've ridden it, and I will splice in some video later on when I get it back on the road. If you want to be copying it, go right ahead. Don't mind me. I'm not going to come for you. This is the kit I think should be delivered with your cheap and cheerful Amazon Chinese sellers. You can all copy it. It works. A nice metal bracket here going through the device. You could make it in, well, any number of things, but GRP works. You could cast it. The key thing is having a casting that keeps that motor firm on the frame and keeps the chain exactly where it needs to be, away from the spokes. That's what this does. And this is, we can see what it's like. This is the hook that holds this in place when it's on the frame. 3 bolts going through this, 1 bolt going through this, and the bottom bracket part of the frame. Simple. That's what it needs to be. Oh, and of course, notice I made some very cheap and cheerful, hold it still, Matt, very cheap and cheerful fixings to hold that motor in place with the 3 cheesy little bolts that come with the motor and the gears. Yeah. So I have adjusted the spindle. I've adjusted its position again. This ripper cog has not come out of alignment. In fact, it was delivering smoothly when I was riding it. So I'm not going to have a problem with that. None of the spokes are broken. I've tested every single one of them. So far, so good. Good to see. So I've got no problem with that. I'm just going to put the bicycle wheel back in alignment and then pop the motor back on the frame, and all should be well for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've managed to realign the wheel. It was literally a couple of mils out at the stay here, and that's all it took to push this cog out of alignment and lose the chain. Now it's all back into place and torqued down, we hope to the correct level. It's time to lift this back into place as if we're on the roadside, he says. And we just get it in place, lift and jiggle and hope for the best, and she slots back in. Perfect. You wouldn't think I'd struggled with 30 takes on this, would you? Not at all. This hole in the stay here is aligned with this hole here, which has still got paint on it, wet paint. We're going to pop the bolt back in. In she goes, drop her down, jiggle it around, hope for the best. Come on, baby. Come on, you know you want to fall into place. There we go, perfect. Washer on the other side, of course, and then the first nut. Now, of course, if you can afford them, you want those nuts with the little plastic in them that stops them shaking out. They're quite nice. I just don't happen to have any of those right now. So I've got a locking nut to lock on the back of that, second nut. And I best put it down. Get my new favourite tool, this one, which is good for, it's lightweight and it's great for roadside repairs, he says. I mean, nothing's perfect, but still. You just need something to get in there and give you that ability to lock it down. Yes, and it's that jammed in place with paint that I don't need to hold it at the top at this point. But I'll get there, don't you worry. Now, it doesn't shift much at this end, but all the same, it is best to have it as tight as possible, because any deflection at this end of the arm is enough to put a deflection of a couple of mils at the motor end. And then you lose your chain again for another reason. Yeah. So we torque that down. I decided to spare you the cussing and swearing as I put this back into place and torqued it down properly. Now onto the retainer plate. Okay, do forgive my shaky hand, the gimbal's doing its best. Retainer plate goes back in place to hold this firmly into the frame, and it's held in place by 3 bolts. So I'm going to pop those back in. 3, 2, 1, click. Boom! All done. Yes, wow, goodness. Now, a few people have asked me why this clamp is the way it is. Well, it's designed to hold things in place but not to crush this tube. And I tell you for why, because if it does, it will ruin the bicycle frame. Now, in days gone by, I used to have a Sinclair Zeta, which was a motor which sat, well, it clamped here, basically. It clamped here at your brake boss. It clamped there, and it had a elastic band that held a motor down on the tyre, rubbed on the tyre, and the motor would turn the wheel. That was the theory, and it was great, except the clamp never worked. And if you clamped it down enough to stop the wretched thing from shifting, you actually ruined the tube here, and I ruined a frame that way. Never again. So my clamps are always the sort that can only clamp so far, and they rely on rubber fixings to make sure that the fix is secure. But this one works really, really well, and it won't crush the frame. That's the key thing. Yeah. So Clive Sinclair, responsible for one of the best computer series 8-bit computer series in the world at the time in the 80s, but also responsible for some of the most atrocious bicycling disasters ever known to man. That's even up against rally. Anyway, I digress. With the motor wire clip back in place, I did have cable ties holding this wire to the frame, but they're a bit of a pain to remove in the field, so the cats reminded me that you could use a battery strap. Yeah, they bought this out from under a kitchen work surface. Not sure how long it had been there. Yeah, so one of the hobby grade battery holders will do just fine here. Probably hold it quite securely. Yeah, so we're going to go with that for now until I find a better solution. Okay, now time for the chain. Okay, as you can see, it's back in alignment. Nice, like that. Well, it only took a few hours to sort that nonsense out. I think I'm going to get myself a longer chain and a chain tensioner of some sort to properly give myself a chance to fit the chain and deal with the vagaries of the alignment of the wheel, because that will help a lot. But for now, the chain's back on. How long it'll last, well, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be taking it on the commute, not just yet. Let me turn it around so you can see. She's not quite aligned, and that bugs me. But it'll do for now. And like I say, I managed to take it up the road and back again with this sort of alignment, so we'll see how we go. Okay, thing of beauty it is not. However, it's firmly in place now. I've tightened these nuts down and ratchet strapped the battery on the back. Yes, like I say, it needs a bracket to hold it properly straight and keep it off the sluicing surface. But there we go. Let's take it for a ride. All good fun. Is very quiet around here. Nice little industrial estate, science park, and yep. You'll often find lots of lorries parked up around here as drivers take a breather or their mandatory rest hours. Well, I don't think anyone will be too surprised to hear the chain came off again. I wasn't surprised. It wasn't properly aligned, and what's really needed is some sort of chain tensioner and guide to make sure the chain gets fed into the right place on both cogs, and then we'll be okay, even if there is a slight difference between the alignment. Anyway, that'll be something for future when I've scraped together a few coins, or maybe I'll make one myself. Probably easier, I suppose. I'm going to fix that, and that'll have me back on the road properly. Well, at least you've seen it running. So whatever you do, have a cracking day, ride safely if you do, and bye-bye for now.